This is The Oddball Show. Welcome to Season 7. The Oddball Show and the Oddball Foundation is dedicated to mental health advocacy through art.
Hi, Dianne. It's Jason. How's it going?
Hey, Jason. Going great. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing great. I'm really excited to have you on the show today. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
All right, so this is normally a poetry. Okay, let me tell you what's going on with why I have a new format. So I had a regular format or an interview format.
There's a lot of interview podcasts out there. A lot. And everybody just throws a mic down, puts someone on Zoom, and they do this. So
technically, it's a poetry podcast. Technically, but I also like to interview mental health advocates, and so I'm going to challenge you, and I think we already kind of talked about it. I'm going to challenge you to be part poet and part mental health advocate. Does that sound cool?
All right, I think that's pretty interesting. Yes.
Okay. All right. So. If you have a poem or something or a piece or a song you want to sing or whatever it is, here's your chance to sing, read, write a poem or whatever, and we can talk about it, and then we'll get into your mental health advocacy. So I'm just trying to keep iTunes honest by keeping the format.
That's perfect. Well, you dredged up some distant memories from back when I was 25, and I actually do have a poem that was published, and I totally forgot about it.
Oh, all right. Well, perfect.
And it's short, and it was meant for my mother, and it's about emotional support, and it was called How Much That Means. So here's the poem. Here we go. You've been there for me through changing scenes. I cried, we laughed, how much that means. So many mountains and valleys from my young age, it seems. Every trail I climbed, you were there. How much that means. Through the most difficult times, and now as God fulfills my dreams, your friendship is here. How much that means. And that was it.
That's beautiful.
For my mom, my best friend.
So tell me about how what were you thinking about when you wrote that poem?
So I had gone through some health challenges and a first mistake in marriage and a quick divorce. And she was just, like I said, she was my best friend. She was always, you know, even when I was a teenager in high school and I'd skip school and go shopping with my mom, you know, she was cool.
That's awesome.
She was so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you guys do you still have a very good relationship?
We do, but she passed in 2017.
So is it kind of hard to read that poem? Or,
yeah, and I haven't looked at it for so long, and I know there was a second version of it, but I don't know where it is. But this is the one. This is the book that she had off of her shelf of my poem with the little thing from the newspaper and the. It was kind of cute. So I actually have.
Where'd you get it published?
It was just one of those National Library of Poetry anthologies in 1995. Seasons to Come, it was called.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And got Reader's Choice Award. What if that means anything, I don't know. I haven't kept up with the poetry industry.
Trust me, I am the poetry industry, and there's nothing to keep up with, man. You just keep on writing and throwing it up on a blog and see if someone reads it or something. But you put a beat behind it, you got 1 billion followers.
Yeah, that's true. That would probably help.
Yeah. So Dianne, we were just talking about your poem. It seems like it has a lot to do with it. It seems like family is really important to you. Is that why you began SYMMETRY Neuro-Pathways?
Yes, it absolutely is. SYMMETRY Neuro-Pathway training was created out of a mom on a mission. I was on a mission to help my youngest son.
So tell me, this neurofeedback. Some people are new to it. What is neurofeedback exactly?
Neurofeedback's a way to teach the brain to better regulate. It's technology-driven learning, really. There's different forms of neurofeedback out there, but the one that I was introduced to that made all the difference was just learning using technology. So you can measure brainwave activity and identify what areas of the brain are working well and which are dysregulated or not really ordered well. And based on that information, you can just teach the brain to change through a series of what we call neurofeedback sessions.
So tell me about a neurofeedback session typically. What is that usually?
It's usually where somebody's kicked back, relaxed. We have a sensor or two on their scalp measuring their brainwave activity and a couple ear clips. That gets amplified through a special amplifier, and the software will detect when their brain is meeting a healthy, more organized pattern. They'll be kicked back watching something on YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, anything that you can stream online. Our software puts an overlay over top of that. So when the brain's meeting a healthy pattern, it gives them a little reward by playing that brighter or a little bit louder. And it goes dimmer and quieter when the brain's not meeting a healthy pattern. So it's just, that's the feedback part is what they're watching. And the neuro part is measuring the brainwave activity.
I'll tell you, so there was a test that you take at the very beginning, kind of like a cognitive test, where normally I'm pretty bad at them. Basically the stuff that you'd find in a neuropsych test, number recall and things like that. And I'm normally really bad at that. But after 30 sessions, I was really good at number recall. I remembered words, which was awesome. I was really high in the number recall, which was great.
Yeah, we do that before people, at least with my services, before they start their neurofeedback sessions, we have them take a series of biopsychosocial assessments. So we know what's going on with them physically, biologically, we're measuring the brainwave activity, but also cognitively. So they take those little tests and we can kind of see where they stand with memory and attention and focus. It's not the same as a neuropsych, but we're gathering a lot of great information and putting that side by side with what we see in the brain. And why wouldn't you? I was at a conference in Florida and Daniel Amen spoke.
A very popular voice in the neurofeedback community is Dr. Daniel Amen. Dr. Amen uses something known as SPECT scanning, which scans the brain activity of a person to compare it to a more healthy model.
And he mentioned, psychology is the only field that hasn't really measured anything biologically before diagnosing people until now. Now we have these brain maps that we can look at and see what's happening in conjunction with what people are experiencing. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, it's absolutely cool. And I really am so glad that you came on the show to talk about it because, I don't know, before neurofeedback, I wanted to have you on the show because I want people to know about neurofeedback because I think it's a really cool technology that, I know I did the first protocol and I'd like to do the second protocol, and I should talk about what the second protocol is, which for me is going to be alpha theta training, which I'm not really I was told a little bit about that, but maybe you can tell a little about alpha theta training.
It might get some people in the weeds here if they don't know a lot about neurofeedback, but there are a couple different approaches. And when we start someone out, we like to look at that QEEG map, the measurement of what's happening in their brain, and that report, and kind of guide their what we call protocols is what that brain needs to learn. So we'd like to go through a series of that to stabilize the brain, calm the central nervous system. And then there's a protocol that's not based on that QEEG map necessarily, and it's called alpha theta training. It's been around also since the 70s. And the point of it is to use the neurofeedback. You're still measuring the brainwave activity, but rather than teaching the brain to produce more or less of a certain brainwave activity, it's just being used to guide a person down into a deeply relaxed state, kind of on the edge of sleep. You become like the Zen Buddhist monk right away. This deep meditative state, like right on the edge of sleep, where your creative waves are higher and you can kind of process and integrate things at a different level than with the busyness of the mind, going on in the way. So it's a really cool state that's been very helpful for a lot of people. Peak performers use it just to increase their game, but it's also used for trauma, addictions, things like that. It's pretty healthy for a lot of us to be able to get into that state.
All right. So we were just talking about alpha theta training, and I want to kind of talk about why I feel neurofeedback has been good for me. When I first did it, and how my brain was quick. I have a thing called thought broadcasting, almost like kind of impulses in the brain that just kind of go, over and over and over and over and don't stop. And when I'm anxious, they fire off even quicker.
Right.
But so after a couple sessions, it started to slow down, and all I started to do was just watch videos and my goal was to try and keep the screen bright. That is amazing technology.
Yeah. Yeah, and yet it's been around since the 60s. It's just not mainstream yet. I mean, it's certainly changed a lot since the 60s, but they were able to teach cats how to produce specific brainwaves at will by giving them a little bit of milk and broth when they did so. And that's kind of how it was discovered by Barry Sturman back then, and it's come a long way.
One of the founders who have discovered neurofeedback is Dr. Barry Sturman. Dr. Sturman found that cats in his lab could be trained to increase their brainwaves at certain frequency when rewarded with food. A few years later, Dr. Sturman was doing an experiment for NASA and decided to use cats as experiment subjects. During this study, he found that the cats who had undergone training were significantly less likely to experience seizures than other cats.
To be able to just kick back and listen to a podcast or music or watch something on a video and actually train your brain. So it's awesome. I'm glad you found
But it works mainly for like video, right? I mean, you can watch something, but it's like you have to be stimulated, sort of, right?
We use sound a lot as well. You can listen to an audible book or music. It depends on whether you're doing eyes open or eyes closed training. So the alpha theta that you're going to be doing will be eyes closed, and you'll just be listening to tones and sounds, background sounds like rain or ocean, and that will give your brain the feedback that it needs. So we do have a lot of people that will train with eyes closed in different circumstances.
So let me ask you, how does this challenge like mental health, traditional mental health treatment?
Well, I don't want to say we're challenging, but we can certainly contribute a huge amount, much more than we are, because when you start to better regulate the brain, other types of therapies become more effective. So my son, like I talked about, he went to all different types of programs and therapeutic programs and learned a lot of coping skills and everything. But it wasn't until we were able to physically start to regulate his brain that he could actually implement all of those things that he learned. And now he's one of the most disciplined people I know. So, I mean, when you start to better regulate the brain, all of the other therapies become more effective.
Dianne, I'll tell you, one thing that I think is kind of cool about neurofeedback is that I was able to handle more things at one time.
Yeah.
I'm all about kind of taking on projects and stuff, and I was able to handle more things significantly with less stress, and I thought that was kind of cool.
That's awesome. Good for you. Yeah, we hear that a lot about people, you know. It can.
Yeah. I handled a 5K. Like I organized a 5K during my neurofeedback training.
Way to go.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And that's a big undertaking for anybody.
Yeah, yeah. How can this help a writer?
Well, it's that creative aspect of it. You know, when you have that busyness and that noise that's kind of settles in and your brain's more regulated, you can become more creative and be more creative. They did a study, the Royal College of London in England, of musical performance increased an entire grade level after 40 sessions. So yeah, the creativity can be enhanced for sure.
So what do you think is the future for neurofeedback? And what do you think this is like the new or a partner to holistic mental health treatment?
Yeah, it really should be. And even life coaching, it doesn't have to be considered a medical treatment because it's learning using technology. So my mission is to get this in the schools, get it in the homes, get it into therapeutic programs. Like everybody should have access to this. There's not a good reason that we shouldn't, because it can benefit all of us. We're using technology to do damage to our brains, you know, our microwaves and our phones and the addictions online and everything like that. Why wouldn't we use it to help better regulate brains? So I really would like to see it mainstream, that everybody has access to it. And that's what we're doing with SYMMETRY. You know, we're planting it in schools and programs and getting it out to families in their homes with our supervision. You know, it's not something that just needs to be out there with nobody supervising. You need to do it the right way. But it certainly can benefit. And that's what I think should happen and will.
Yeah.
I think we're getting there. I mean, with this mental health crisis, people are more open to this and they're looking for other answers. The medications only go so far with managing things, you know.
What does it do to the brain that makes you kind of like focus in, or does it kind of like steer your pathways in a way that like makes things make sense?
There's a couple aspects to it. So what happens when you start the neurofeedback process, again, I always say it's to better regulate the brain. So when you calm the brain down, you reduce anxiety,
people often start to sleep better too. And anytime you start to get in a healthier sleep cycle and rest better, your creativity improves, your focus improves. So those are a couple really important things. Your mood regulation can balance, word finding can improve. Like you said, with your math, everybody's different. You don't know exactly what's going to happen first, but even your math skills improve. So that can happen also with, literature, reading, English, creativity, processes like that. And then that other aspect that we talked about with the alpha theta protocol is always something really cool for anybody in creative endeavors, is to experience that alpha theta aspect of it once you get the other stuff, a little bit in line, because there's huge things that can happen with that alpha theta process creatively, because you think of things differently. You come up with ideas, things that you haven't thought of, a different way of looking at things that can happen throughout that process.
So, someone who's just starting for the first time, what should they kind of look for, or what are the kind of the benchmarks of it working or not working, or that needs to be adjusted
during the neurofeedback process?
Like the sessions, like during a couple sessions, what do you notice when it needs to be adjusted, or it has to be kicked into a higher gear or something?
Yeah, with our process, we're watching. You have a coach. If you're doing it at home, you have a coach that's checking in with you regularly, and they're looking at your sessions. And then our case management team goes in there and looks at the actual sessions and your progress tracker. We're always tracking some key items that you want to find improvement in. So you've got a whole team of people on SYMMETRY that will be watching what's happening and adjusting it as needed. And that depends on how well you're doing. Are you really improving? Have you reached your goals in your progress trackers? That's how we decide when we're going to switch. And we're also looking for a more ordered pattern in your brainwave activity as well. So we're looking at both the physical part of it and what's happening outwardly. And we just readjust as needed. If you're coming into the office, obviously somebody's looking at that all the time. But again, we always have the case management team getting in there at least every 10 sessions and evaluating the entire thing and, talking to you and finding out where you are.
So can you tell a couple of success stories of people who came in who might have had a difficult time and came out the other side super successful?
Yeah, and that would be my poster child, my youngest, that one that went through all of those years from, kindergarten until about 8th grade, getting kicked out of every different program and school. And 40 sessions gave him that pause before reacting that he never had from birth. And once he was able to do that, then he's become extremely successful to the point of being one of the most disciplined people I know and training for special forces. So from getting kicked out, and I honestly believe he would have been locked up or dead, not with us, because he was that impulsive and nobody knew what to do for him. And so he was definitely one of the success stories. And there are so many others. Sometimes there's things that happen that you never would have imagined. The brain is extremely powerful. I've had people with PTSD, Iraqi veterans, change their lives and be able to function. I've had post-stroke victims that haven't been able to move. This one is ridiculous. You can never advertise this, but you never know when it's going to happen. But I had a gentleman that couldn't move his hand for 8 years since a stroke, and he started being able to open up his fingers. It freaked him out, but it was amazing.
So, what is the setup of a general neurofeedback session? Like, how does it actually work?
The setup of like the environment that you're in, or the sensors and the
setup, the environment. How does it actually work? Like, what is the setup like?
So the setup that you want to have when you're doing a neurofeedback session is going to be kind of a quiet place, and you're going to be comfortable and relaxed, because the more relaxed you are, the better your brain will learn. And then you just have, like, for our home units, it's just a laptop and a small amplifier about the size of a cell phone and a couple sensors. And you just put those on your scalp where we instruct you to, and on your ear clips, a couple ear clips, and you press play. The software is made for at-home use. So there's just a couple steps that you do, and then you're watching whatever you're watching or listening to it. and relaxing. We start you out at like 10 minutes at a time and gradually build up by 5 minutes at a time to make sure it's not fatiguing your brain too much. And a lot of people can train up to an hour, even twice a day. It's kind of like learning to play a musical instrument or write with a pencil. The more you practice, the sooner you're going to be able to do it. And the brain, that's how the brain learns.
No, I got to tell you, during my sessions, I did like a 2-hour session once.
Oh my gosh.
Is that not good?
Well, sometimes people will get a little too tired on that one, or if they're not well hydrated or didn't have a snack, they're not going to feel so good. It's just like going to the gym, on an empty stomach. That's not always the best idea. And sometimes people's brains just start to shut off a little bit. But we've had instances like that where people can tolerate it. So everybody's a little bit different, and our case management team will be keeping an eye on that. But most of the time, about an hour, and people's brains just start to fizzle, and they're not really participating as much as they think they might be.
Okay, so here's the thing. When I got to an hour and 15 minutes, and I had been watching a lot of YouTube videos and stuff, I was like, all right, well, how can I continue this? Like, let's go for it, right? So it was like, it was late at night, kind of. It was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to do that or not, but I missed Krav Maga, so I went for it. And I started watching snowboard videos, and man, did the time just freaking pass. And I was like, all right, let's watch some skateboard videos. And then I started listening, like, all right, let's listen to some Tolley video, like music and like Mos Def and all this hip hop and stuff. And then by 2 hours in, I was like, all right, I think this is I don't think I should go anymore. Probably because that's probably not what you're supposed to do. I was like, I think I'm abusing the system here. So I stopped. But I'm telling you, it's cool because what I would do, Dianne, is I'd watch like a YouTube video like on like content creation for YouTube. Nice. So I'd draw like cameras and stuff like that. Or I'd watch like marketing videos because, I have, trying to like get more Facebook followers and things like that. Or how to like better produce a podcast or whatever. Or I just like watch like a motivational video,
That's awesome. You can do whatever you want, as long as it's not super gory, violent, and overly emotional. Or if you're cracking up the whole time and laughing, that's going to interfere with the brainwave because the muscle tension will be picked up. But other than that, yeah, you can pick what you want to watch.
Before a Grateful Dead show, I wanted to get pumped up for it, so I did a neurofeedback session. Yeah, before a Grateful Dead show, and I was watching like Tom Bilyeu, who's Impact Theory, his motivational video, and it was so intense. He's like, "You go for it, you go, you got this, blah blah blah," and my eyes just started closing, and I was like feeling it all, you know what I mean? And I was like closing my eyes, and I don't know. I think even, and they were like, you close your eyes at one point, and they actually knew when I closed my eyes, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, yep. There are definitely different patterns with your eyes closed versus eyes open, and we kind of are watching those trend lines for that. So,
well, yeah, what's cool is like there are different pathways, but it was still like working while my eyes were closed.
Yes.
So I can tell you, like, I know this is the Oddball Show, and we normally talk about poetry and stuff, but this mental health thing is so cool, this neurofeedback thing I wanted to talk about. So I was literally plugged into a computer, and like it would show that if it was orange, it wasn't working, and if it was green, I was on point, and if it was orange or green, and then I kind of like connect these things to one to my left ear, one to my right ear, one to my left lobe, one to my right lobe. I mean, you actually know the technology.
Okay, I don't know if you're still talking because you flatlined again.
No, I'm not flatlining. Oh, a lot of.
I'm impressed that we're just powering through though.
Yeah. 5 different recordings. We have 30 minutes worth of material, so we're actually powering through. Okay, so we got 4, 10, 15, 20, 25, about 25 minutes.
Okay.
So
that's what you learned for about a half hour.
I know this is kind of a special Oddball Show because we are really just talking about like this neurofeedback because I think it's cool, and I mean let's not call it a commercial for neurofeedback, but this is a fantastic freaking thing that I wanted to talk about, and there's a science behind it that is honestly, I know with continued treatment I'm going to lower my meds. I like the way I feel. I know like 3 days or 4 days after not doing it for a while how I feel. And it's just a good technology. And it's really cool because no one knows about it.
Yeah.
So if I can have like this little podcast infomercial for what I really believe in neurofeedback, then I'm going to do it. So, I think that it's great to have this platform, the Oddball Show. We interview all sorts of people. We talk about poetry. We talk about advocacy. Well, this is advocacy on a different level. I absolutely think that people should get involved with neurofeedback in whatever way they can, learn about it, read The Body Keeps the Score, read the research about it. Dianne, where are some other resources that people can learn about neurofeedback?
So obviously on our website, SYMMETRY.com, and I don't know if you post that on your site, but it's NEUROPT as in pathwaytraining.com. We have links to tons of research on there. The International Society for Neuroregulation, there's a whole bibliography that you can find neurofeedback information on and different conditions for people. So that's a great resource. You can always call us too and have a conversation and let us,
Well, what's the best way to reach out to you if someone wants to reach out after listening to the Oddball Show?
Yeah, they can call 1-844-BRAIN-ON. It's 844-272-4666 and talk to one of my specialists on there and get some more information.
Well, you've heard it from Dianne Kosto from Symmetry Neuro-Pathways. This is a great training. If you want to just try something different, all right, you can try mental health medications like I have for many years, but I wanted to try something different. I tried neurofeedback. It feels like it's working for me. I really appreciate the science behind it. I think it's incredibly cool. So it has the Oddball Show seal of approval, which I don't know where that goes, but
nice.
I give it the Oddball Show seal of approval. So if you're listening and if you are in the Massachusetts area, actually, there's actual where are some of the locations that you can actually get the training?
Yeah, obviously, we do have a tech up there in that area, and she lives in Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island, but we have techs across the country. Our primary office is down in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, but because we do have techs in different facilities in different places, and we have home training, anybody can have access to this now.
So this is home access. You can get this from the comfort of your living room, wherever you go. You can get this.
Yes,
that's fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So once again, the website is
SymmetryNeuroPT.com because it's Symmetry Neuro-Pathway Training is the name of the company. So SymmetryNeuroPT.com, and you can call us at 844-BRAIN-ON, which is 844-272-4666. And then maybe we can come back. I really appreciate you having me on here. Maybe we even get a couple of my team members on and have a conversation in the future.
Yeah, actually, I'd love to have that. Maybe we'll do a follow-up after my Alpha Theta sessions, and we'll talk some more. So thanks for offering the technology, first of all. It's just really cool stuff.
Absolutely. Saved my son's life. I don't know what we would be doing without it. So,
well, thank you for taking the time. I know you are super busy, so I wanted to thank you for being on the show. And, if you're out there and you have, curiosity about neurofeedback, check out Symmetry Neuro-Pathways, and one of the people there will be happy to talk to you. Shout out to Britt.
Yes.
She was incredible. She actually was part of my training, and she was incredible. She went to you guys were a huge part of the 5K and just showing.
Britt is awesome. I have quite a few fabulous people on my team, and she's our lead for the at-home training.
Britt is incredible. So shout out to Britt. And thank you, Dianne, for being on the show. I want to thank Dianne Kosto for being on the show. And this is a special Oddball Show. This is the 10th annual, actually this is the 11th annual reading of The Lonely Boy on Christmas. So here we go. There once was a town, it seemed, that was always cold. Even when it was warm, it still was always cold. The people were mean, the people weren't green, the people weren't clean. They all forgot their dreams and no one could sleep. Not even sheep could make them dream. They all had forgotten their meaning and what it meant to be free. They lived their lives as shadows. They lived in poor man's castles. Some were drunk and staggered, and some were slaves in shackles. They all had forgotten what once was their motto: to live in darkness you could never cast a shadow, and in the darkness shadows never follow. And when the light shines from the sun in the seasons, whether frostbitten hands or those wearing mittens, the sun always shined on the ones who asked for wisdom. And one did, the lonely boy on Christmas. And this lonely boy just wanted one thing for Christmas, a dog or a kitten wrapped up with a ribbon, a bright blue ribbon. If he had a dog, he could pet him with his mittens and watch him chase pigeons and play fetch with the children. But it never happened. No gifts were given to him this Christmas or any Christmas. There he sat in the town of castles and shadows where the cold seemed to sting everyone and everything, and he began to reminisce of his family's last Christmas. The last time he was given a kiss on his head, and that warm feeling he had, and the last words ever said by his dad, "You must live by yourself, we can no longer take care of you." And he said to them, "I'm just a boy, what do you expect me to do?" But his father and mother, they didn't love one another, and they didn't really mean to say what they said. So one day they both got into their cars and left. But before they left, they both kissed him both on the cheek and said, "I'm sorry, son, that we have to leave. Here are the keys, this is your very own castle. And never leave, always stay in the shadows. We'll always be with you, but we must leave, and we hope for your forgiveness." And then they had left, the lonely boy on Christmas. Part 2. At the same time, there was a young widow who always sat by the window with a sad glow waiting for her husband to come home. He and she also lived in this world, the world that was mentioned in Part 1, a world of no fun where no one could smile and fear being stung because the cold was too cold and some were too poor to buy coats, and besides, the castles were hidden by shadows and moats protected by ghosts. But still there was hope that her love would come home, and every day she wrote from a journal that was given to her from her husband who had disappeared in the cold of the winter and made her from married and happy to a way too young widower. Her name was Rosaline, and she was only 18 when she found the man of her dreams, but one day he left to go to the store and was never seen anymore. People had said that he had gone missing in a cold storm on a frosty Thanksgiving, and they stopped searching after a few weeks because no one could survive out in the cold on those peaks. But Rosaline never stopped looking out that window till one day it started to snow, and then it suddenly stopped. Now from the sky, an angel just dropped. Part 3. Before I tell you how the angel dropped and why the snow stopped, we must go back to the spot where the boy sat patiently waiting for the day when his family would come back, and how all he wanted was that dog for Christmas, a little dog wrapped up with a bright blue ribbon. But really, gifts were not on his wish list, just a little slice of happiness outside of all that darkness. That day the boy decided to leave. He said to himself, "I'm going to get a tree." So he left his castle and stepped out of the shadows and headed to the forest outside of the meadow and began a long walk out of the darkness and into an even darker forest. He could have went left and went towards the shore. He decided to go north and ventured forth towards the forest and the trees and the bright north star. He knew little where he was, but it was better than where he would be. And besides, it was Christmas. He wanted a tree. Before he left, he dressed in his warmest clothes, hat and coat and scarf to protect his nose, and the only possession he had with him was a backpack of provisions and a compass and a map, and off he went and took his first step out of the darkness. Well, in that same town, a widower wept. Part 4. "Oh, where did he go? Got lost in the snow," she sang to herself while she sat by the window. "Oh, where did he go, and when will he return to give me his love I so desperately yearn?" She repeated these lines like she was hypnotized, the saddest moment in a beautiful life. She was only 23 when he said goodbye and went out into that cold November winter and was never seen alive. But keep faith, good reader, a good love never dies. "Oh, where did he go? When will he return? Why did you leave me? It wasn't your turn." She sang this song in the morning. She sang it still morning, and that was when she realized that her eyes were not blind, and in her heart she believed he was alive. At the same time she sang by her window in that empty house. The compass wasn't pointing, telling the boy to go south, but the map said that the meadow was the way to go. But his heart told him to follow the star, and into the dark he ventured into the deep forest where the trees lied therein. Part 5. Well, dear reader, you must be wary of me, so let me tell you how the boy found his tree, and also a brand new family. It starts where we left with the boy's lonely trek and ends, well, we're not quite there yet. So the boy began his climb into that deep forest while the angel sang to him the simple chorus, "Follow the star, son, follow the star, follow the star, son, follow the star." Yes, the boy was lonely and scared for sure, but in his head and heart he was strong and secure. People would leave him, for that he was sure, but never his family. That scar was the worst. His head began to hurt, but before the tears started to fall, he took a step. And all of a sudden, he was not by himself, and while he was down and thinking about life, he somehow had wandered onto the thinnest of ice. Part 6. Oh, reader, oh me, oh my, what did this boy do on that thinnest of ice? He walked oh so carefully, and he could hear the ice creaking, and then there was the crack in the ice he could see. He thought to himself, dang, if I wasn't thinking about all my problems, I might have seen this coming, and I could have done something, instead of being stuck where I am. And then something happened. ice cracked and splintered and cracked and splintered and cracked, and the ice fell underneath his feet, and the boy was suddenly over his head, and while under the coldest degrees he began to see Christmas wasn't about getting presents or trees, it was about being happy. He was under the water, gasping for air, trying desperately to be freed from a horrible death indeed. Then at this moment, a hand reached out to him. Now enters the man, Jim, the widower's husband. Part 7. Hey kid, can you hear me? Grab my hand. Hey kid, can you hear me? Grab my arm. I'll pull you in. That was the voice of the widower's husband. All the boy could hear was a muffled sound, but saw the arm and tried desperately to get out. He grabbed the strange hand that had come from above, and Jim pulled him out with the strongest of tugs. Jim pulled the boy off of the ice and made sure he was all right. Can you hear me, kid? Can you hear me? But the boy was barely breathing, cold and shivering. What could be done to save this lonely boy on Christmas? Jim started a fire with some sticks around him and hoped and prayed that something could heal him, but as the fire grew stronger, soon the boy breathed in and looked into the eyes of the man that saved him. And at this very moment, the widower was sleeping and dreaming what seemed to be the same thing. It was about a boy who fell on a dark night on the thinnest of ice, and her husband was surely alive and saved this boy's life. Part 8. The widower hadn't left her house since her husband had disappeared, but she had to leave. Her heart was telling her so that she had to go out of the darkness and back into the snow. And as she left, she took a deep breath, and that was when she realized for the first time herself that the darkness she lived in, this town of castles and shadows, there were more places to see, like the places in her dream. She visioned a stream lit up by a bright star, and there she ventured out into the dark. And there she sang, "My heart tells me to follow my dreams, and I will sing this song until he hears me." So she began singing, "My heart tells me to follow my dreams, and I will sing till my angel hears me." Just like that, the stars lit up the whole place, and though they were so far apart, she could see his face by the place in her dream, right by the stream where she would find her Jim, and where she found me. Part 9. Yes, readers, I was the lonely boy on Christmas, but now that I have grown, I am no longer alone. My family, Rosaline, and my father Jim, we live outside of the darkness where the shadows live. And though you must find your own way, and sometimes follow that dream to get the biggest tree or PlayStation 3, all you really want is a good family, and maybe a dog, like the dog that I have, but really in the end a mom and a dad and people that love you and believe that the right star will shine above you. So there you have it. Merry Christmas to all of you and all of yours. May love and light unlock all your doors. Merry Christmas from Jason Wright, editor of Oddball Magazine. And this has been the Oddball Show, and that was an epic reading of The Lonely Boy on Christmas. I read that every year. It's one of my favorite poems. I wish you all a happy new year, a healthy 2022. Put 2021 behind you. And thank you, Dianne Kosto, for being on the show. Everyone check out Neurofeedback. It's a very valuable science, so check it out. And wish you all a happy new year in 2022. Be well to everyone, and we'll see you real soon. This has been the Oddball Show. My name is Jason Wright, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Feliz Navidad. See you soon. This has been Oddball Show Season 7, Episode 4. Episode 4. We're on Episode 4 of this season. And I want to thank you all for being loyal listeners of the Oddball Show. I want to thank every one of you this year for being part of Oddball Magazine and Oddball Foundation. With your help, we were able to do our first Michael Cherry Memorial 5K. Published a book this year, The Train of Thought 2, which is available on the Oddball Show bookstore. We had a lot of growth, made a lot of memories this year. So we'll see you in 2022, and I hope you all have a very restful 2021, end of the new year. We'll see you in 2022 with guests like Jess Vanderstand of AFSP, Andy Norman of the book Mental Immunity, and so many other guests coming up. So we'll see you all real soon. Be well to each other, and peace.